Welcome to the Haunted Hangover podcast. I'm Louie, and I'm joined by Chris.
Hello.
So, Chris, it's Wrestlemania week.
Ooh, yeah.
There you go. Dig it.
This is the white trash Super Bowl, the best week of the year.
Oh, my God. The white trash Super Bowl. But yes, we thought it would be fun to revisit Slim Jim and WCW present Halloween Havoc 1997.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to my world. Where every night is Halloween. There's no way out. WCW shall rest in peace. Step to the madness.
Slim Jim presents WCW's Halloween Havoc. Sunday, October 26th, live and only on pay-per-view. Call your cable or satellite company to order now.
So, about 2 years ago, or it's maybe going on 3 years ago, Dave and I covered Halloween Havoc, I believe it was 91, Chambers of Horror, when they had the whole cage match with the electric chair in it and all that good stuff. I believe It was 91. 90 or 91, around that time. I didn't fact check that one.
Yeah, go back and listen and you can figure it out.
Yeah, that was about almost 2.5 years ago, probably. It was in the first year of the podcast existence. And we've been meaning to kind of revisit Halloween Havoc because, for God's sakes, we parody it in our logo because we are big wrestling fans. I'm a big wrestling fan. Dave enjoys wrestling. He's more about the old stuff. And you are a big wrestling fan.
I mean, if it wasn't evident by my cheap Macho Man impression at the top, Macho Man's my guy. He's been my guy. How many years now have I done a Macho Man costume for Halloween? I mean, monster wrestling fans.
Yeah, so we're all big wrestling fans, and I don't know why we just haven't. I think I've tried to kind of like bring it back where we cover either you and I or Dave and I or a group of us, whatever. Go back and check because there's still a lot of Halloween Havocs we haven't talked about it. We're kind of bouncing around. We're not, going in consecutive order because we did that one and we're doing this one, and I kind of want to try going forward to do one every WrestleMania week. I just think that'd be fun
idea
to kind of stick with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought this year, let's just fuck it. Let's just do it. Let's just jump on and watch one of the old Halloween Havoc events and talk about it. Yeah. Now, Halloween Havoc in 97. Sorry, Slim Jim's and WCW's Halloween Havoc 97. Dude, Slim Jim is all over this paper.
I mean, it was Macho in the 90s. He was the Slim Jim guy. So, like, it makes sense.
Sure. But, like, you really, like, I forget how much Slim Jim was, their presence.
It's like on the ring mats, like in the middle of the ring.
Like, of course you associate Macho Man Randy Savage with Slim Jim. Like,
right.
Even outside of wrestling, he still was like their spokesperson and the face of it. He's still the face of it, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's, you could buy, like, they call it a macho-sized Slim Jim.
Yeah, and it's like a giant Slim. I guess. Yeah. Obviously, I won't eat one, but I have
indulged in a macho-sized Slim Jim from time to time.
Literally, they reeled you in just because Randy Savage.
Absolutely.
Randy Savage was on there. His spirit jumped into you.
The box is like it's like a nice blue like paint silhouette of him, and like it's fucking awesome. Of course, I'm gonna give it a shot.
It's literally you looked over, you're like in Target or some shit, and you just see the box like, Chris, come over here, man. I'm gonna eat a Slim Jim.
I'm gonna step into a Slim Jim.
Come over here. I know you haven't had one in a while. Got one here for you. This entire episode's gonna be shitty Randy Savage.
Yeah,
sorry about that in advance. But yes, Halloween Havoc 97. This is the Halloween Havoc that I would say is really known for one match. I think there's one match, and when we run through the card, you know, we'll I'm sure that's the match we'll talk about maybe the most.
Yeah,
but
it's an all-timer.
It's an all-timer. It's like it goes in people's list of favorite, you know, their favorite wrestling matches of all time. In the history of WCW, it's rated as one of the top wrestling matches of all time. Now, just in case you are not a wrestling fan and you're listening to the Haunted Hangover podcast and you did not listen to our original Halloween Havoc episode, what Halloween Havoc is the old WCW World Championship Wrestling Federation that no longer exists because WWE bought them in 2001, correct?
Yeah, WWF bought them.
WWF, sorry. They were
Right.
WWF at the time. Now they're WWE. They bought WCW, and what WCW had every year was the Halloween Havoc event. Usually it occurred or it happened, it was a pay-per-view the week of Halloween. It was usually like the Sunday before Halloween.
Yeah.
We talked about this when we covered the previous Halloween Havoc in our previous episode. Go back, listen to that episode.
Right.
I'm sure we go more in depth on just kind of the history of the event to an extent.
This one was October 26th, 1997. So
yes.
5 days before Halloween.
Right before Halloween. That's from what I remember as a kid, it was always right before Halloween. That's just how it always happened. Funny enough, what's really cool is WWE recently brought it back, which was awesome.
The NXT brand, which I feel like in general, WWE never really captured the Halloween spirit like WCW did. I mean, they never really had like a Halloween themed pay-per-view, so to speak, you know? And even Halloween Havoc, like the WWE version, is like a very watered down, like less than kind of version. And I feel like if there's one thing that WCW did well was like some of their gimmick stuff like blew WWE's away. No,
for sure. And I'll admit, I think so when they first brought it back, because the last time we covered a Halloween Havoc event, it didn't come back yet, because it's only been around for I think 2 years now that they brought back
like
Halloween
last
Havoc.
year and this year might have been like, or 2021 or whatever it was, might have been the first year.
But last year, I will give them credit. And I'm sure we'll cover one of those in the future. But they did embrace the holiday. I thought they did a decent job the last time. They had zombies and shit. They had Shotzi Blackheart, who she's like a horror fan wrestling, a female wrestler, and she loves horror movies. So they had her kind of as the horror host of the event. So they did a good job. But I will admit, when you go back and you rewatch some of these old Halloween Havoc events, from year to year, they embrace the holiday. Sometimes they kind of just lightly, you'd see like a jack-o'-lantern here or there. It wouldn't be that kind of intense. You know, some people would dress up in costumes, the commentators, things like that. But I will admit, Halloween Havoc 97 isn't the most Halloween-y.
Yeah.
They didn't go full steam ahead with the Halloween aesthetic and just vibes with this pay-per-view. But like you said, let's just run down it. Let's run down the whole event as a whole. Like you said, October 26, 1997. This was at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas, which is a suburb in Nevada. That's where this took place.
Yeah,
so
12,000 seat arena.
Yeah, pretty decent crowd. You know what I mean? For 97, for wrestling.
Yeah.
It is also the 9th consecutive Halloween Havoc event. So at this point, they'd almost been running these for a decade. So long time at this point. Just it existed, just Halloween Havoc as a thing. Focusing on the actual the way the event looked and just the way they did everything that pertains to like associating the way they set everything up, associating it with the holiday. One of my favorite things is the fact that they had these graphics. So there's two bits of kind of CG graphic deals that they have. So they have on the screen and in the intro and outro, they've got kind of this entrance to a cemetery where there's gates, and they'd open up and there'd be this, this guy kind of holding up the Halloween Havoc sign. And whenever, they're introducing the commentators, we should mention the commentators, really good commentating team. You've got Dusty Rhodes, you've got Tony Schiavone, and then you've got Bobby the Brain Heenan on commentary. Phenomenal.
And there's also guest commentator of Mike Tenay, who
yes.
Weird. They're like, we've got Mike for an hour, and like it's a very weird thing to like say on live TV. Like they're like, oh, Mike is just joining us for the next hour. I think he says something like he was in the neighborhood or something like silly like that, which it's kind of weird. But WCW had some weird stuff.
They awkwardly just kind of played up the fact that he was there and they were going to throw him on commentary for a bit. They do that now, if you think about it, when they have like a special
like guest commentator,
Even JR in AEW is only really, he shows up for like an hour sometimes, and they're like, all right, JR, you can exit and not do commentary for the rest of the show. They also have these, like, again, when they introduce people, there's these graphics that pop up. They use spooky fonts. I dug it. My favorite moment is they have this little witch that flies across the screen and people's names just sort of appear behind her, almost like Stardust type of deal, like where there's just like something kind of flowing behind her, and it'll be like the name of the wrestler or the commentator.
Like a trail behind her,
Yeah, basically, just kind of like this little dust, and then it's like this magical witch thing that passes by, and I even think at one point it goes past either a moon or something, and it spins, revealing live or something like that. Really cool, super spooky. I love that. Also, I don't know if you noticed this, and it took me a second to realize it, but there's like thunder sound effects.
Yes.
There's cackling, witch cackling that randomly happens during people's entrances.
Yeah.
I don't remember if they did that any other years.
Yeah. I also wonder what of that was like for the home audience and what of that was like for the audience that was there,
I think that was just for us as viewers at home. I don't think I think all people heard that were live, that were there in the audience.
Just the regular entrance music.
And fireworks. And
it's like how WWE today has like those weird
CG
VR graphics that pop
horrible
up on this.
things.
Yeah, those fucking things.
But always, when it comes to Halloween Havoc, the one thing that WCW always did right was the actual entrance facade where the wrestlers... It's not the Titantron, because that was WWF, and it was a giant screen. This isn't really a screen, but more so a set with an entranceway. And what they did this year in 97 was they built sort of a mausoleum, a graveyard. They've done the graveyard several times because they put all these like faux tombstones on the ground, and they make everything kind of a dark blue, all eerie looking, and then fake mausoleums. A nice touch with this whole entrance set, was there's a moon, and it's a jack-o'-lantern just kind of behind on the wall. And to me, it looked like it was glowing.
Yeah.
Or
there's definitely something.
And then obviously, they have the signature, logo with the large evil face and Halloween Havoc WCW underneath it. Always love that logo. And the logo that we parody was a little bit later. But I do want to also eventually have a parody of this Halloween Havoc logo with the face. Because I've always loved it. There was a couple other things I noticed too. Like not a lot of wrestlers wore any costumes. There's been times in the past where they kind of dress up, or they
play to the theme themselves.
Their gear. I did notice. I was going to say Mr. Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, because he wasn't Mr. Perfect.
He wasn't
Mr. Perfect in WCW. Just Kurt Hennig. He is wearing orange and black. Mm-hmm. His like tights, his
singlet thing,
his singlet, but I think he wore that normally. It might have just been a coincidence, but I'm hoping it was because
I don't know. That's a good one. I don't know if you ever wore orange and black outside of Halloween.
Yeah, the most infamous costume or gear, I'd say, is Rey Mysterio Jr. Rey Mysterio Jr. He was Rey Mysterio Jr. at this time, dressed up as the Phantom with the purple outfit,
which people in wrestling today still pay tribute to and parody. And even as recent as Seth Rollins, like a couple of years ago, wore Rey Mysterio, that Phantom themed gear. I want to say Santos Escobar did like an homage to it one time too.
It's an iconic look for Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, I feel like that look, and when we get to it, that match, kind of cemented this event, and that's what everyone remembers it for.
Halloween Havoc 97.
97, yeah. And that costume is more iconic than the event, honestly. There's action figures of Rey Mysterio dressed up as the Phantom.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen T-shirts of it. Yeah. He looked great in the costume. You know,
he's always been one to do like fantastic costumes and themes, and like it clearly goes all the way back to the beginning of his career. Like he nails it. He always nails it.
And I feel like him dressing up as the Phantom, it works for Halloween. Halloween time and the Halloween season and Halloween Havoc. The other gear I want to point out was Macho Man Randy Savage's kind of like lightning that's green.
Yes.
It was very Halloween-y. Now, his gear, listen, Macho Man Randy Savage always had fantastic gear.
Yeah.
Anytime he wrestled, he was a very flamboyant guy whenever he wore, all his shit. But I will say they definitely hyped up this gear because the Halloween Havoc 97 commercial, the promo that would air to kind of promote this event, he's wearing that gear in the commercial. And the commercial's fantastic because you got Macho Man there, and there's like it looks like it's almost like hell. There's demons.
So very like neon. You know what it reminds me of a lot? That sequence in Batman Forever.
Yes.
Where Robin like saves the damsel in that neon night area. That's what this commercial always. And I mean, I gotta feel like there's some kind of intention to that, because like Batman Forever was 95, this was 97. Like, there's gotta be some kind of pull from that. But like even the one character in the commercial is like the voodoo doctor guy or whatever. He's like at the back side of the car in the commercial, and he has this very similar face paint to the guy in Batman Forever. But like Macho Man looks fucking cool in that commercial. Like he looks so cool.
For me, Halloween is every day. He says something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yo, dude, if
WCW will rest in peace, which is like that's an Undertaker thing.
I'm gonna tell Dave when he composes a new piece of music to sample like something from Randy Savage in this promo, because it is fantastic and it screams Halloween. Everything about it screams Halloween. It definitely, like Little Louie, like seeing this commercial I would have been hyped.
For
sure. What I mean?
Absolutely.
So I totally get like why, like it pushed the Halloween vibes for the event, and they always did a great job kind of making the commercials all spooky and stuff, like especially for this event. And it's funny too, because Macho Man was a heel at this point.
He was NWO heel. Like,
dude, even the poster art for this event, it's literally a giant Randy Savage, and I believe he's wearing the same gear. So he was
the Macho Madness, like bright green and shit.
And it was like, I think there's like a tombstone looking thing on it and all that stuff. So again, really kind of just bringing all like just that aesthetic to life with this event and with Randy Savage. And I really think the reason why Randy Savage and Macho Man Randy Savage was front and center is because of the Slim Jim deal. Going back to that, that's definitely why he was there, even though he wasn't in the main event.
He does have a presence.
He's got a big presence. He shows up several times.
Right. And also has a match of his own, like prior to that. So he's got a huge presence just across the show.
Yeah, he comes several times. This is the Randy Savage pay-per-view.
Yeah, absolutely.
For whatever reason, and I think it's because of Slim Jim.
And what you could do is surprise the kids. Order it, bring them in the house, show them a surprise. We've got you a Halloween Havoc. Great Halloween gift for the kids.
Yes, it is.
What are you going to be in Halloween?
Halloween? I haven't decided yet. Well, what are you going to be at Halloween?
I'm going to dress as Mike Tenay.
Why?
Well, he looks like the kind of a guy be going door to door begging for food.
So let's get into the matches really quick. We'll run down the card. So match number 1 was Yugi Nagata, who very famous Japanese wrestler, with Sonny Ono against Ultimo Dragon, a WCW. He was always a part of W. I remember as a kid always seeing Ultimo Dragon. Yuji Nagata wins by submission, and then they just beat up Ultimo Dragon.
Yuji Nagata with Sonny Ono.
Yes, they beat up after he defeats him. After Nagata beats him, Sonny Ono beats he kicks Ultimo Dragon in the arm.
Because going into the show, the feud was Sonny Ono and Ultimo Dragon, and Nagata was like his hired hand to help him take out Ultimo.
Yeah, and he's wearing his suit and shit. It's pretty silly, pretty hysterical. I'll be honest, I was whatever about this match. It's definitely a curtain jerker. Yeah, that's what it is.
Absolutely.
Next up, we've got a very well-known wrestler.
Very well-known. The Ocho.
The Ocho. We've got Le Champion.
Back then, he was none of these things.
He was none of these things. He was the Lionheart, Chris Jericho, up against Geto, another Japanese wrestler. Yeah. These guys are like recently retired, some of these dudes, which is kind of crazy. But they have, competitive match.
Yeah.
Jericho wins by submission as well, doing the
Jericho
Lion
looks like
Tamer.
A fucking stud in this match.
He's a baby
really does.
here. He's like 25 years old.
He looks awesome in this match.
Yeah, and he wins by submission as well, doing the Lion Tamer, the Walls of Jericho. Which
I will make note, which is, and I texted this to you too, and it's kind of weird, and I guess it's like a rights thing nowadays. Like we both watched this on Peacock on the WWE Network.
Yeah,
Jericho's music that he comes out to for this WCW 1997 match is his Break the Walls Down WWF 2001 on Chris Jericho music. And I can only assume it's because of some rights issue. They didn't have for the playback for the WC. But it kind of took me, it threw me for a little bit of a loop because I was like, I don't remember Jericho having this music pre-WCW.
I tell you what, they mix it great because you can't even tell.
It sounds seamless. It sounds like it happened there in the arena, but it definitely is not the real music.
I do want to point out too that Jericho does this super Frankensteiner that looked terrifying.
Yeah.
He falls on his neck.
Yeah. Oof,
or his head.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus Christ. I don't know what he was doing. Next match, there's Rey Mysterio, the classic match of Rey Mysterio Jr. and Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero was the Cruiserweight champion.
Yes.
So the whole storyline was, Rey Mysterio wears a luchador mask, and Eddie Guerrero at one point wore a luchador mask. So Eddie Guerrero wanted Rey Mysterio to remove his mask.
Right.
So this was a mask versus title.
Yeah, which
match.
if you're not familiar with the meaning behind luchador masks, if you're not really a wrestling fan, there's a lot of honor and tradition and dignity and respect tied to the masked luchador. It's a monster no-no in the wrestling world to unmask a luchador in the ring and remove their mask. So this match was a big deal. There was a lot riding on this match.
The funny thing was, not shortly after, he took off his mask
A
anyway.
year and a half after, maybe? 2 years
a year or
after?
two later.
Yeah.
He ended up taking his mask off anyway and then putting it back on when he went to
Yes.
WWF, WWE.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic match, dude.
God. This is, we said, all-timer.
Too.
Yeah.
It's not long. It's 9 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe around that. But constantly going, constantly moving. You've got Eddie trying to rip Rey's mask. He eventually rips it. He's trying to remove it, rips it at one point. Fantastic match. These guys are both in their prime. They're both in their 20s, flipping around. Rey throws himself off the top rope outside of the ring. It is weird that it ends on a roll up, Eddie's.
He reverses his power bomb and basically rolls him up into a Hurricane Rana pin.
Yeah, so you would think it would end. I guess we're just used to the way matches end now, where there's a finishing move.
Yeah,
but back then it's
it's a little more of an old school feel.
especially with the cruiserweight division, these were smaller guys, younger guys, and they would do more like the high-flying, flippity-dippity stuff. That I feel like every wrestler now is a cruiserweight in 2023. Everyone does flips and shit.
Gymnastics and aerobatics.
Yeah, but it's a great match. It's a great match, and I'm pretty sure.
Absolutely.
When we wrap up all the matches here, I think we're both going to agree this. It's probably the best match.
Yeah. No, I definitely, the next match is 100% my favorite match. 100%.
No, it's not. Get out of here. If the next match is your favorite match, we got all.
I couldn't give any less of a shit about like the next 3 matches.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. So the next match is Alex Wright with Deborah against Steve McMichael.
Yeah,
there's actually a promo early in the night between Steve McMichael and
Deborah McMichael.
Yeah, because they were married, and she's with Alex Wright and all this dumb drama. It was terrible. This is definitely a fast forward match. The only thing notable about it is Goldberg shows up.
Random, like,
well, this was early.
Maybe it was tied to like some. I didn't watch the Nitros before going into this, but like I'm sure it was tied to some ongoing storyline between him and Mongo. But it just felt kind of weird to me.
This was when Goldberg was like really new.
Right.
This was like the streak
was not the thing yet.
Yeah, this was before him beating Hogan. This was before. Remember, at this point, the big storyline with Hogan was Sting. Sting came back and was going to defeat the NWO. And that was kind of the main. That was the guy that was going to defeat that group, not Goldberg. But yes, horrible match. Skippable.
Absolutely.
Next match, pretty rough too. We've got Jacqueline. Oh, by the way, sorry, Alex Wright defeated Stephen McMichael.
Right, yeah, in case you were wondering.
In case you were wondering, who cares? Another match, not good. Jacqueline against the Disco Inferno. The best part of this match is that his pants say "Shake Your Booty."
Yeah.
That's the best thing about it. It is what it is. This is an intergender match. Jacqueline.
Sure.
Listen, Jacqueline was always a tough chick.
Absolutely.
When
Disco Inferno was always a goon.
Oh yeah,
he was always a joke.
I never liked the best thing about.
Don't let him hear us saying this. He'll talk shit about us on his podcast.
Whatever. I don't really care. Disco Inferno was never good. It was horrible.
He's a jobber.
Horrible. Just gimmick and everything was just terrible. Even when I was a kid, I was like, "This is so stupid."
Yeah.
And I'm someone that likes Saturday Night Fever. And
the only good stupid. Disco gimmick is Disco Stew on The Simpsons.
There you go. But yes, Jacqueline defeats Disco Inferno once again by a roll up from behind.
Roll up
That's
pin.
how she wins. Next up, we do have 2 guys that are wrestling royalty. We've got Kurt Hennig, who was the U.S. champion?
United States champion.
Yeah, he was the U.S. champ, up against Ric Flair, one of probably one of the greatest wrestlers to I think everyone will agree he's up there. Besides all the crazy shit he's done outside of wrestling. But yes, you got them having a pretty decent match. It ends in disqualification.
Yes.
So anytime a wrestling match ends in disqualification where no one wins because of someone getting hit with, basically Flair hits him with the belt. Or he hits the ref. I think he hits the ref.
No, he puts him in the corner and puts the belt on his head, he puts him in the Tree of Woe position, upside down in the corner, puts the belt on his head and kicks it, which, I didn't get why. There was no point
it was pretty bad
for that.
I was also trying to, because I don't remember the storyline leading into this.
Yeah.
Who was the heel and who was the face?
I'd say Flair was the wasn't Kurt Hennig, with the NWO?
He was with NWO. You hear a lot of the NWO.
Right.
You literally hear the NWO theme about 100
every
times.
other match. Someone comes out to the NWO theme. Yeah. So he'd have been the heel, right? So why would Flair, do a heel tactic disqualification to keep the belt on Hennig? It just... this is one of those things we could spend hours dissecting WCW's bad creative decisions. So, let's move on.
Not good. I do like Flair fighting the refs. He was just fighting the refs, going crazy. Flair being Flair. It's always entertaining to me. There is one thing I want to point out before we go on to the next match, which also was not a great match. There's a promo. Going back to my man, Macho Man, our man, Macho Man Randy Savage.
The guy.
So if you think about it, 97, internet was fairly new and was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And they cut to Macho Man at this table, which was like an internet table. And Macho Man looks so confused and out of his element. He's like, I'm so excited. I don't even know what's going on. I don't even know what to say. All you people on the internet. Like, he is so confused.
It's very much like, we don't know what this is. Like, let's just keep going.
And he just wants to beat up DDP because that's his match tonight. He wants to fight DDP. There was actually a promo with him earlier, Miss Elizabeth's with him. And he's talking about wanting to beat up DDP. That's all Macho Man wants to do. And this is just, like we said before, Macho Man's all over the place.
He's everywhere.
Show. And it's so funny seeing this wide shot of Randy Savage sitting there with these two people with a computer.
Fiddling with the computer.
And he's just looks so... He fucks up one of his lines, and he even admits, he's like so flustered and upset that it's just that he felt awkward, I think.
Yeah,
sitting there.
absolutely.
He's like, I don't know what this computer thing, internet is, but whatever. Like, that's literally what he says. He's just like, internet people, that's basically it.
Yeah, I think we're still at that, like, newer phase of the internet where, like, people still didn't quite know what to do with it. I'm sure there was like a WCW.com, like you could log on and there was. But you know, like not many people were logging on to it at the time.
This is also a 44-year-old Randy Savage,
right? Exactly.
Who probably hadn't touched a computer ever up until this point. He's like, I got other people to do that for me, answer emails. That's literally it. So yes, hysterical just seeing him there in his gear. Next to a dude in a costume. Yeah. Not in a costume, in front of a computer. I wish they should have been wearing Halloween costumes. I know. That would have made it better. That's my critique of the pay-per-view when we get to the end. Next match is Lex Luger, which I was never a Lex Luger fan. I'll be very honest.
He was like propositioned to be the guy so many times.
And Scott Hall, who is, if you know me, one of my favorites. I love the Razor Ramon character. But Scott Hall in WCW at this point was kind of he was just there. He was having a lot of problems. This match also ends in a no contest. We've got Larry Zbyszko as the special guest referee. Yep. I'll tell you what, the polos that he's wearing it, Dusty's wearing it, Tony Schiavone and Bobby the Brain, like with the little Halloween Havoc insignia, sick.
I remember those polos like triggered a memory for me while I was watching it. Like I remember signing up for a bowling team when I was in like, I don't know, 5th grade or 6th grade. Mm-hmm. And the bowling polos, like you could pick like your bowling polo, and it was like a black polo like that, and I picked one with Sting on like the lapel, the logo.
Amazing.
And like that triggered that memory for me out of nowhere.
That's amazing. That sounds like a sick polo too,
man.
Yeah. This match was a bit messy. Mm-hmm. The coolest thing about it was just, I always loved Scott Hall's blood dripping gear. I always thought it was sick.
It was always awesome.
Always sick. Larry Zbyszko gets into it because Eric Bischoff runs out and tries to interfere. Yeah. Larry Zbyszko wants to see a replay because Scott Hall technically won, but he cheated.
Right.
So he wants to see the replay. It's a no contest. Start the match
More
again.
of the NWO gets involved, and Six shows
AKA
up.
X-Pac, a.k.a. the 1-2-3 kid.
Sean
runs
Waltman.
in. Sean Waltman just comes in, starts kicking everyone. Then Larry Zbyszko gets him in like a choke sleeper. It's really messy.
It's an absolute mess.
Yeah,
it just is all over the place.
Not good.
Yeah.
It's disappointing to see Scott Hall. Again, I was never a Lex Luger fan, so whatever. But to see him in a match like this, the best thing about this match was Scott Hall's gear, which is always sick, like I said, and him throwing a toothpick at Larry Zbyszko. Best thing about this match. Moving on. The next match was Randy Savage, Macho Man Randy Savage was with Miss Elizabeth
in a Las Vegas death match.
Going up against Diamond Dallas Page, DDP. I love how Macho Man's like weight belt says snap into it, and the back of his jacket says snap into it. It's Another messy match. This was I think it was a Las Vegas no holds bar match.
Las Vegas death match.
Death match, yeah. So basically they can use weapons. They can fight all over the ring.
Yeah, an anything goes kind of match.
It was messy, but I
mind you, I think at one point the commentary team says something about they're 1-1 at this point. They're tied up, and this is like the blow off match for these two.
It's a fun match. I did enjoy it. I love that there's a couple things I love about this match, and we'll quickly go through them. I love that they end up in the crowd. That's always good. It's always fun to see them end up in the crowd.
Also of note, they end up in the crowd, and we missed talking about this in the opening contest.
Yes,
Raven and his flock are
Stevie
are
Richards.
There, but at the time they're not the flock, because like when they first come in the first match and just sit in the crowd, Zbyszko, or what's his name, Tony Schiavone's on commentary, and he's like, "There's Raven, and what do we call these guys? His groupies, his pals," and like, so they weren't technically the flock yet, but it was like, I guess this was like the start of them being that group. But yeah, they end up in the crowd right next to those guys.
Yeah, and it's like a little awkward because Stevie Richards seems to be the only guy having fun with this, being kind of just in the audience.
Yeah.
Like Raven's just there like this, like with his arms. It's really odd. I completely forgot about it, so I'm glad you mentioned it because I thought it was kind of just silly. But going back to the Randy Savage DDP match, yeah, I thought it was fun. I love that they utilize the faux tombstone graveyard set. Like they run into it. A Randy Savage, or I think DDP, Randy Savage throws DDP into one of the fake tombstones and it shatters. They use it to hit each other. There's even a joke. I think Tony Schiavone or Bobby the Brain are like, "Oh, that's a real tombstone," because they're hinting at The Undertaker. I love that. Macho uses a camera to try to hit
and Schiavone's
DDP.
like, "That's $100,000 camera."
I love that. That's what he says. That's $100,000 grand plus camera or something like that. He says. I'm like, all right, Tony Schiavone. Miss Elizabeth gets involved, and then you've got Kimberly.
The ref,
I forgot about Kimberly completely.
Yeah.
DDP's first wife.
Yeah.
She was part of the Nitro Girls. Remember that shit?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about her. I was like, oh shit. I forgot that she got involved because of Miss Elizabeth interfering in the match. And, Kimberly grabs, Miss Elizabeth, takes her to the back. And then another strange, weird fucking thing. Someone, and this is just a thing that was happening at the time.
Yeah.
Someone dressed as Sting.
It's Sting!
Comes out and hits DDP because his ribs are all taped up and damaged from some previous incident.
Nails him with the bat.
And it's obviously Hogan.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's Hogan that
yeah, it is.
90%
The announcers are not buying it for a sec. It's 100% Hulk Hogan.
Oh, Hogan. Because it plays into the main event of the evening. But yeah, that's how the match ends. It's really dumb. Randy Savage wins because of all the nefarious shit he's doing in the match.
Yeah. They go for a while too. This match runs like close to 20 minutes.
It's a fun match, dude. Macho Man and DDP are two of the greats when it comes to WCW. So,
absolutely.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
Now the main event of the evening, we've got Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who was the champion, the WCW champion at the time, going against Roddy Piper. Now, the whole build was that these two hadn't had a match since the 80s, I believe. Mm-hmm. And this was like Roddy Piper's, this was his big return to the company and this big match he was going to have with Hogan. He hated Hogan. At this point, if you think about it, Roddy Piper was always a heel. Yeah. But he was actually the face.
Right. He's the guy to go for in this one.
Because
and it's like
Hogan was like the big bad. He was
He's
NWO
leading
Hogan.
the NWO, yeah.
Yeah. And and they're all fucking pieces of shit in NWO. That was always the thing. So Roddy Piper wanted to stop the NWO and he wanted to,
save WCW.
Yeah, save WCW. That was kind of the whole thing with Sting too that played into the whole.
Right.
There's a lot of chapters to this story of Hollywood Hogan and Sting. It's a cage match. They're having a cage match. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and I forgot. This has got to be one of the flimsiest looking cages I have ever seen And they're climbing the shit.
It's an odd looking one too. It's like it's that old school blue cage, but it like
it's wobbly.
Extends past the ring a little bit. It's not like flush like what we think of a steel cage is like right around the ropes, you know? Like
yeah.
This one is like more on the outside to the floor, and it looks like they picked it up at Home Depot.
It's weird. I forgot that it looked this flimsy.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, was that always their cage? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
It looked dangerous to climb.
Yeah.
And these
absolutely.
fucking guys are climbing it left and right. So I was like, I knew nothing bad was gonna happen because this is very old. This is
right.
But I was just like, wow, this looks scary. The match itself, I'll be honest, disappointing, not good.
Yeah.
Very bummer main event,
yeah.
not good. You got Piper biting Hogan on the ass, which is probably
Yeah.
so hysterical. Piper literally bites Hogan on the ass. Like one of the first things he does is bite
full on, like bites his tush.
full
It's
on,
a real fucking weird moment.
Near the sphincter, bites Hogan on the ass, bites him on the face, bites him on the back.
Yeah,
That's
and he's
Piper's
poking
doing.
him in the eyes, which like you expect to see from Roddy Piper, but like if he's playing the face, he's doing the dirty tactics still, and like tushy biting. It's as a main event goes, it's very much all over the place. But again, that goes back into like all these guys were running their own creative in WCW, so like this is what they thought would be fun, you know.
Horrible.
So
yeah, not good. It's a short match too. It's not long.
Yeah, it's 10
Once
minutes,
again,
maybe.
Overbooked and sloppy at the end.
Tons of interference.
You know, there's a little bit of blood. You got like
Yeah.
Hogan giving a couple of leg drops to Piper on a steel
Mm-hmm.
chair. Then you've got Macho Man shows up once again. Macho Man comes out to help Hogan. He climbs. Which is what's
climbs the
impressive.
flimsy cage.
Climbs the cage, and at this point, Macho Man looks like he weighs about 250 pounds. He climbs the cage, jumps off of the cage, hits Hogan barely touches Hogan. It looked like dangerous.
Yeah.
And this is like, I'm surprised Macho did this, but he did it.
Yeah.
It's a horrible kind of just main event. Then they cuff Piper to the cage. They beat the shit out of him.
Knock him out.
A bunch of fake Stings just randomly show up, standing around the cage. A fan climbs the cage in Sting makeup to save Piper. That was the whole thing. This was not a real fan. This was a stage
They
fan.
want you to believe that it's like, oh my god, this fan is so impassioned, but like it's very the show goes off the air still showing what's happening.
Yeah,
you know, with the
because
fan,
at the time there were fans that did jump the ring.
Right.
There's an infamous moment. I forget if it was before or after this where a guy rushes the ring and Macho Man beats the shit out of the guy, and they have to the camera's like slightly cut off so that the people don't see it at home, but you see it clear as day. But yes, this fake fan climbs the cage, gets the shit beat out of him. Hogan's beating him. Macho Man's beating him. Refs have to come out. Security have to come out. The commentators are saying they have to save this man's life. They have Macho and Hogan.
It's very dramatic.
Very dramatic. And then you've got Piper there all fucked up.
They're still showing it, so we know it's not real, you know?
It's a very messy...
Yeah,
it's
very
not
weird
good.
conclusion to the show.
Good. It's not good. It's not a good conclusion. It's not a good way to send the fans home happy.
Right.
Like if I was there or paid for this pay-per-view, which I don't think I did in 97.
No,
I would have been very. I think I hotboxed it too.
Yeah,
I think it was a
but
fake,
I feel like we are
bullshit
looking
cable.
at it. We are looking at it through like a more modern lens, and maybe you know at the time it was more of like. This was the acceptable thing. Like I was 10 in 1987, so like I was pretty much prime wrestling age at the time. But like, it was just wrestling to me. It was all good. I fucking watched it all.
Yeah. You think this shit's real?
Right, exactly. Looking back on it now, you're like, geez, this thing is a fucking mess. But like, then I'm sure I was like, this is so cool. This is all awesome. Like, this is great. And that's like, basically when you boil it down, that's basically what wrestling is. It's like a show for kids to like turn their brain off and enjoy it,
It's all
watching
fiction.
this fun fiction stuff. Exactly.
It's always fun, though. I always love it, no matter how stupid it is. This was stupid, but it was still it was stupid and ridiculous. But there's little parts of it I was like, all right, this is kind of entertaining.
Absolutely.
My favorite part of this match is the commentary, just how dramatic
they're losing their shit.
They're overselling it, but that's kind of
save
the point.
This man's life.
That's their job.
Ridiculous.
But yes, favorite match.
I mean, it's obviously Guerrero and Mysterio. It's no contest.
Yeah, no contest. That's literally if you never watch this and you just are curious to watch a Halloween Havoc, like you're not a wrestling fan, you want to watch like a Halloween Havoc event because we talk about it and we love, the event. This is the match to watch. You can skip most of this shit. I would recommend watching the Macho Man. That'd be my second pick, the Macho Man DDP match, because of how much fun it is with using kind of the Halloween set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did.
Right.
That's what made me enjoy that match.
Yeah.
That's probably number 2 for me on this card.
I think we agree on 1 and 2 for sure.
Worst match. Pick one,
there's no shortage of ones to pick from, but like Alex Wright and Mongo McMichael, get the fuck out of here. I could not care less. Even at the time, there was never like a time where I was like, yo, I'm a big Alex Wright fan, I'm a big Mongo McMichael fan. I get it. You got to pad the card with like mid-card matches, but like those two are jabronis. Those two are jabronis. I don't care.
How much more mid-card can you get with those two?
They suck.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad match. I almost wanted to fast forward through it, but I was like, no, I got to watch this for the show.
Right,
so,
exactly.
For the podcast, I had to sit through it. It was pretty bad. Jacqueline Disco Inferno wasn't like probably just as bad, but there's a little more. I think Jacqueline tried with that one. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
I also I feel like that match you're not necessarily supposed to take as serious because it's like Disco Inferno was always a joke anyway, and he was going to get his ass kicked by a woman, and that's like the joke of it. But like Mongo and Alex Wright is like supposed to be a match, and they just fucking blow.
then Goldberg shows up.
Yeah.
And randomly. I'll be honest, I was never a big Goldberg fan. So
I couldn't care less about Goldberg.
I was just,
I was always a Stone Cold guy. Goldberg was a cheap Stone Cold knockoff.
Yeah, I was never a big, when he had his run, I remember being a kid and being like, oh, cool. But at this point, he wasn't that Goldberg yet.
Right.
So
he's just some big beefcake looking dude.
Yeah, he was on the rise to become what everyone knows him as, as the spear jackhammer dude, What are your closing thoughts? What's the closing thoughts on Halloween Havoc? What do you?
I had a blast with it. Listen, it was an absolute blast. That's my thoughts. That's my thoughts. I enjoyed it. It's a fun show. Like, is it some of the best wrestling I've ever seen? No. But does it do what it sets out to do? Like, is it a good Halloween themed show? For the most part.
Yes.
It was fun. Like, it was a fun, what was it, 3.5 hours or whatever it was?
A little under 3 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. 3 hours. It was a solid 3 hours.
Yeah, I could agree with that. My biggest issue with it, just to kind of close and wrap this all up, my biggest issue with it was they didn't fully go all the way with Halloween.
Right.
There are other events, and when we get to them in the future, there are other Halloween Havoc events that embraced it much better.
Yeah.
There's some involving monster trucks. There's shit like that where, okay, the commentators were in costumes, shit like that, where I'm like, okay, cool. They love Halloween. They're showing their love for Halloween, their appreciation for the holiday. This, besides the Macho DDP match, really didn't use any of it to its advantage. It didn't use Halloween as any kind of not as a crutch, because that's the point of the event. But
more than anything else.
Yeah, they could have done more with it. But it was fun to revisit. I hadn't seen it in years.
Yeah, absolutely.
This had been probably the first time I had sat through it, maybe in 8 years or something like that. So it was fun. It was a fun watch. It was a breeze. Not the greatest pay-per-view of all time. But, if you want to watch a couple of decent, fun matches, I'd say check out Halloween Havoc 97.
Savage going up on top. He's going in. From the top. Unbelievable. What? No. Unbelievable. Is he going to jump, Tony? He jumped. He caught
And that was WCW and Slim Jim present Halloween Havoc 97. Be sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Haunted Hangover. Also, check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/hauntedhangover31.
And if you can rate and review us, that would be greatly appreciated.
And as always, remember, the best cure for a hangover is...
more booze.
Ooh, yeah, dig it. That's so stupid.